All right. So, good afternoon. Today I'm going to go over the PBL weekly roles and tasks. Um, Actually going to go over the first starting off with the background information. Let me see here. I'm not sure how to get this off. I hope that I can still. Okay. So basically, first off, it starts off with the background information on the PBL weekly Rosin task virus sheet. This here just entails the weekly submission information, starting off with week one, which was April 15th, wasn't it? Excuse me, when it was initially assigned. The due date was April 22nd, 2020. I'll go into detail about how those things should be set up. Week two was the virologist. Week three was the immunologist. Week four, excuse me, was the graphic. Oh, Jesus, Rachel. Week four was the graphic designer. And then week five left off with the project manager. Okay. You also have an exit ticket, which is not included on here. Really quickly, I'm going to go to the other screen, which I'll be to another screen, which is the weekly PBO roles and tasks. So this one here does not have the entry document, which was the first initial document, which was due April the 22nd, I believe. Again, the background information is listed here on just information about the virus and the symptoms that the people experienced on the island. So role one was a virologist. Each week you'll have a role and you'll have a task to complete. Even though it's past tense, I know this week was immunologist. I believe next week is graphic designer. Then the following week is the last week, right? Or something like that. So basically, you have the roles and you have the task. Here's again role three, graphic designer, and its task here. You have some questions to answer and submit. Then you also have role four, which is a project manager task. The rubric, in which I'll go over in just a second. Task four, which is right here, the questions. And again, here is the exit ticket in which you will answer and submit as well. Okay. So you will answer this exit ticket along with with task four, which is the last week. This submission is due May the 20th. I'm going to quickly go over the rubric that we have. So the rubric for this project, which I already have it highlighted, you want to basically aim to be in the expert column here. Basically, the weeks are what the tasks are, or what the tasks are in which you should complete, right? So your introduction, which was the entry document, the virologist, the immunologist, and the graphic designer and the project manager. Looking for water. Excuse me. And so basically, you want to aim to be in the expert column, right? You want to make sure that you meet these things highlighted in this column. So it says clearly and effectively, excuse me, provides details and main ideas, right? It says, and that is for introduction. So for biologists, the things that you need to have completed, make sure you have a name for your virus, provides structure of virus, communicates knowledge of cell structure, communicates process, excuse me, of virus replication. Immunologist, name your virus, research, those types of things. Make sure you have a prevention for your virus. Make sure that it's clearly communicated, whether that's through a capsule, whether that's through whether you're going to inject people with the antibody on how to cure them from that specific virus, which I'm going to get into in just a second. Graphic designer, make sure you include your fact sheet, make sure it's neat, make sure that anyone who is not a science person is able to read it. And project manager, you are basically responsible for completing the overall task, okay? This is not a group project. Let me just start off and say this is not a group project. This is an independent project that we've broken down into individual pieces. So the some students may be assigned to it on STEM scopes, and I'll go to that right now. But basically, you want to make sure that you follow the documents that we've given to you, okay? And let me go here. It's gonna show my Google Classroom. That's fine. So basically, uh-oh, that may not be the right document. This is the right document. So basically, you guys on your background may see the information like this, right? You may have it as in a group project. Well, we've broken it down from a group project into an individual project, okay? Due to Corona and due to the way that we are learning, it is definitely an independent project that you are to submit yourselves each week to your assigned biology teacher, okay? So want to make that very, very clear. This is not a group project. It has been broken down. So be sure that you read the information, the documents, the Word documents that are provided. But it is assigned to you on STEM Scopes as a guide, okay? And so basically, it just lists the PBL roles. And again, along with those roles, you have tasks, okay? So I'm going to switch my screen again and start going over the actual project itself. And I'm going to start here with week 1. And I'll go over each document. I won't go back over the rubric. You can go back over the rubric independently, but if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out. So starting off, we do have the background information. So be sure that you read this background information, okay? You have to read the background information in order to understand the project, even if you have to read it 4 or 5 times, okay? Understanding the transmission and prevention of harmful viruses is important in protecting public health. As part of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, you have been asked to be assigned weekly roles and tasks to be investigated as an explorer who recently came to a newly discovered island. The treasure hunters, which would be you, were exploring an unmapped area of the South Pacific and stumbled across a small island chain. They explored the main island, for a short time before returning home to the United States. Once they returned home, they all became extremely ill. High fever, vomiting, and skin lesions were the common symptoms between the explorers. Their blood was tested and a new virus was discovered. The fear of the CDC that is the unknown virus could potentially become an outbreak, okay? So basically, you have these people, which are you, and you can imagine if it was you or your friends and you went somewhere and you came back and you had a virus. It became an outbreak, right? So basically, it says an outbreak, and I'm on the second paragraph right here. An outbreak in epidemiology is defined as an increase in sudden occurrences of a particular disease during a particular time and place. If the virus spreads rapidly, causing a high number of cases, it may be labeled as an epidemic. You are responsible for determining various aspects of the newly discovered virus before it can become an outbreak. You and your team need to create a virus fact sheet, a fact sheet, on the virus, and on the fact sheet, you would need to name the virus, compare the structure of the virus to a normal cell, describe how the virus reproduces, and describe how the virus causes the disease. Special consideration will be given to fact sheets that include the location of the virus, and how it can be prevented. You will be given time to do research, design, and create the fact sheet and prepare for your presentation. So basically, these are the weekly roles and tasks that you'll be completing each week. That's not listed here. You will present your fact sheet to CDC officials in a 5-minute presentation. Your roles will consist of a project manager, virologist, immunologist, and graphic designer. Notice that it does say your roles, okay? So each week, these are the roles that you are to complete, all right? Make a list of what you already know about viruses and sketch several possible ideas. Use this information to guide your research and creation of the fact sheet. And it says, thank you for helping educate the public about dangerous virus outbreaks. Okay, so diving right in. So during week 1 was the entry document. Week 1 was just basically a warm up of like, how do you plan to complete your project? What do you already know about viruses? What do viruses need in order to live, and those type of things, or in order to replicate, okay? And so it says, click the link below and watch the entry document video from the preparation section. In their student group, students should read and discuss the entry document. Even though it says student groups, it should say students, okay? So I'll change that here. And so, let's see here. So number one, it says the student will highlight and take notes on the video on paper. So basically what you could do, and I hope that you guys can see me, I would have out like a sheet of paper and I would take notes on whatever it is. And so going to number two, it says, then the student will make the list and then review the list of knows and need to know. I'm going to show you guys what this should have looked like, what it should have looked like, and what it can still potentially look like. You still have time to go back and make those changes, okay? The student will clarify the problem and set up a T-chart titled Know and Need to Know. A sample T-chart of possible answers is below. The teacher has completed the no column of the chart by requesting that group share what they learned from the entry event and entry document. So basically, the entry document is the document that is on STEM scopes, but basically it's the same information that's here in the background, okay? So it's the same thing, we just transferred it and condensed it into one group project. Let me see. So says this will bring out the criteria and constraints. Do the same with the need to know column. Don't worry about any modifications that are in the red here. The student will write each item in the form of a question and make certain not to answer any questions until they have been asked. When recording the questions on the T-chart, the students will leave space between each one so answers, can be recorded. This chart should remain visible during the entire PBL. Review the STEM scopes, engineering design process to emphasize the steps to designing a solution. So basically, you are to click on this video and read the information. Not read the information, but of course, listen to the information that is there and take notes on whatever you think is helpful, whatever you didn't know previously about viruses, whatever can assist you in answering the questions, which I'm going to go to in just a second. Link to entry document. So this is basically the link to the entry document for STEM scopes. It's the same thing that I just showed you all. But again, this is just a more condensed version that I'm showing now. So basically the know, what the students should know after the video. So basically you guys should know that the steps of viral replication, compare a virus to a normal cell structure, basic immune system responses, target audience is the public, 5-minute presentation to a population. And this is all just for the know, okay? So for need to know, information student does not know. And these are the questions. What is the engineering design process? Show the EDP graphic and explain each step, okay? These questions here, I did not give them all to my students. My apologies. But where you can start for your questions would be with the first one. What is the engineering design process? So what is the engineering design process? What does that look like? How are we going to build that? Okay, so how are you going to set up your fact sheet? How are you going to set up your presentation? That's how you would answer this first question here. And if your teacher did not assign you this question, then do not worry about it, okay? But this is the same for the biology department within itself, but I don't want to confuse anybody, so we'll just move forward. How do we share the information? Okay, so how are we going to share this information amongst our team members? But in this case, how are you going to share this information with yourself? One good way would be to make sure that you take the necessary steps to answer each role and task each week. So that way, by the end of the project, by the time you get to the graphic designer and the project manager role, you basically have your project completed. Where will we get this information we need? So where will you get this information from, right? Well, you have several links. You have a link here, which you can watch the video and it'll give you some information about it. You can also go to the internet, research different virus structures, different cell structures as well, and compare those to viruses, right? Let me change my screen really quick. I'm gonna do a new share. So what I did, or what I had recommended to some students last week, was to go look at some viruses, right? Here's a picture of a flu virus. Here's a picture of another virus. I believe that's a bacteria virus. Let's see. So what are some different viruses that you know? And you don't have to answer this question, but think about it, right? What are some different viruses that you know? what are some viruses that are similar to the symptoms that the people on the island, as mentioned in, and I'm just going to go to the entry document because this is the entry document, guys. What are some things that they were experiencing, right? It says that they all became extremely ill. High fever, vomiting, and skin lesions were the common symptoms between the explorers. What virus, and think about this, what virus is close to that, right? What virus can you think about that that's close to that? I think the flu virus, or maybe the corona, right? The flu, if anybody has ever had the flu, oh gosh, it has you have severe body aches, you do have a high fever, vomiting is involved. So this is basically a virus that you are creating based on the information provided. You can name the virus whatever you choose for it to be. Excuse me. You can name the virus whatever you choose for it to be. And so let's see here. So types of viruses, let's see what it has here. So again, just different structures. Here are some helical shaped viruses. So tobacco, mosaic viruses. So that virus doesn't, you wouldn't need this structure. I would think you would need something more so along of either the influenza or the bacteria, right? Because it could be very well be a bacterial infection as well. So that's just some ideas, but again, this is your own virus. There's no right or wrong answer. Just as long as it's professional, it's neat, and it's legible, and you have clear content, regarding the virus. Okay. So let's see here. Let me switch my screen back and go back to. Going back to the original PBL entry document that I was sharing. So going back to the questions, this is just for the first part again. I'm just breaking it down if it seems like a lot. These are the questions, where we get this information we need. Just went over that question. How will this be graded? So you do have a rubric. So you know how this would be graded. You know the expectations. So be sure that you go over each column. If you need help reading the rubric, I'm more than happy to go over that individually with you guys. Or I can go back over it in just a second at the end of the presentation. So moving right along, can I work by myself on this project? Yes. Do we make up a virus? Yes. Also, remember to be creative, use the information in the entry document as well as knowledge from class to create a realistic virus, all right? So you are creating your own virus. Going right into week 2, virologist. So basically, as a virologist, you are responsible for ensuring that you include specific information about the virus itself. Your focus is about the structure of the virus and how it compares to a normal cell and how the virus reproduces. You are responsible for communicating your information to the fact sheet, specifically the graphic designer role for the fact sheet, okay? So I'm gonna switch quickly here, guys. Even though this is just a weekly timeline, I'm gonna go to the weekly PBL Rosin task sheet. Let me see here, to this one here, and explain, because you guys also are assigned this one as well, okay? So role 1 is your virologist, right? Which is due April 22nd. As a I'm not sure if I just read this, but basically, here is the link that you'll click on, and basically make sure that you read this. Make sure you look at the video, guys. It'll give you more information regarding the virus, and it'll give you more information regarding the introduction to viruses if you're not previously familiar with them, okay? So task 1, and the task, remember, the task are everything that you are to complete. So task 1, you have 3 questions. You are to name, first as an individual, name your virus. So whatever your virus is, not sure. I came up with the virus name Pro-Ebola. Then research known viruses to study their structure and decide on the structure of your viruses, which I previously just showed to you guys, okay? So you can rewind that clip to see that part. Compare this information to the structure of cells, summarize this research, and post your summary to the graphic designer role. And make sure, don't worry about any modifications unless you're told to specifically. But basically, you'll do the same thing as I mentioned before. Compare this information to the structure of cells. I know I'm rereading this. Summarize the research and post your summary to the graphic designer role. So basically, this is a task that, this is a question that does include something that the graphic designer will need. Even though it is in upcoming weeks, I would go ahead and do it, put it in your project, so that way you have it and you're not having to cram it in at the last minute, if that makes sense. Number 3, you are responsible for describing the replication cycle of your virus to the graphic designer. The team will present your information regarding virus structure and replication. So basically, how is your virus replicating? How I would describe, how is my pro-Ebola replicating? Of course, we know that a virus requires a host cell in order to replicate. So how is that replicating? How is your virus replicating throughout the body? Moving right along to role 2, immunologist. As an immunologist, you are responsible for ensuring the research includes specific information about how the human body responds to the virus. Focusing on the immune system, you are also responsible for developing a way to prevent the virus. You will use the information in the graphic design process as well for the fact sheet. Below are some resources to help get you started. So basically, what is an immunologist, right? They're basically going to do what? Help you, or you're basically going to do what? Help find a way to cure this pro-Ebola virus, right? Whether that be, like I said, whether it be a dosage of medicine and via a capsule form, whether it be something that someone can drink for over a period of days. Are you gonna just naturally heal them? Like, how do you plan to heal the virus that is already there? So your tasks include, you've already named your virus, which is here, number 1. You should have already researched known viruses to study their structure and decide on the structure of your virus. You still will compare this information to the structure of cells, summarize this research, and post your summary to the graphic designer. And basically the replication of your virus. So basically it's almost the same thing as the first week, right? So if you already have this information, that's fine. One thing that I did not mention is how to present. You can present this information via Google Slides, PowerPoint, or Google Docs. I do have students turning me in things via Google Docs, which is fine. I just ask that you keep the same Google Doc, me personally, but feel free to submit however you want to, okay? Just as long as it is turned in, right? But I think the easiest way is more so what I'm trying to say is that the easiest way to submit would be through a PowerPoint or a Google slide, okay? And I mean, it doesn't have to be long, anywhere from about 5 to 10 slides, okay? Number 3, graphic designer. As a graphic designer, you are responsible for creating the virus fact sheet. The fact sheet needs to be colorful and engaging, must be written so that a non-scientific reader can easily understand the virus. What that means is so that maybe your family member, any other teachers or someone else should be able to read the project without any trouble. It says here, you will use the information in the fact sheet to ensure your design is accurate. So basically, however your virus is formed, however your virus is shaped, you'll include that information on the fact sheet. Well, how do I know what a fact sheet looks like? You'll actually visit the CDC, which made the CDC website, and I'll look for that information. Let me see. That link may be in here. Okay, so for graphic designer, the link to the CDC website is here. So just click on this website, and it should give you some good examples on how to complete the fact sheet. All right. Going back to the original document. I bet you're like, oh, you're switching back and forth. Yes, I am. So basically, this is where you will create the fact sheet. And basically you can submit via PowerPoint. If you want to take a picture of your fact sheet and turn it in, that's acceptable as well. I would say specifically get with your teacher and ask. Again, the most acceptable form would be PowerPoint or Google Slide. Based off of the information learned from the project, how were pathologists, these are actual questions. Based off the information learned from the project, How were the pathologists able to discover who was infected with COVID-19 virus? This should actually be one question. So this is a error on our end. I do apologize. So it is a good thing that we do have this video to help. That should be a period. And this should be one question, okay? So definitely recommend watching the video. And I didn't want to do that. Okay, whatever. Cool. So what were the first signs of infection in patients who were affected with the COVID-19? So in addition to having to create the fact sheet, you do need to answer the questions. Make sure that you submit make sure that you submit however, in whichever form your teacher chooses for you to. For my students, I actually assign it via Google Classroom, which I can show a preview of in just a second. Going on down to project manager task, which is the last task. Keep the rubric in hand constantly. Refer to it to make sure your team is meeting the criteria. So let me just show you what that looks like. So be sure to go back, guys, and look at the rubric each week. Make sure that you have completed what it needs. Say, for instance, make sure for graphic designer the previous week that the visual is neat and complete. And this is for your fact sheet. Make sure that it provides enough information to explain viral life cycle, the prevention and immunity, and that type of things, okay? And then last but not least, the project manager. Make sure that project shows an understanding of virus structure, reproduction, and role in causing diseases. Be sure not to have anything like project does not show knowledge of viral structure, reproduction, and role in causing diseases. So don't just give us a virus and not tell us about it. Don't just give us a virus and not tell us how it does not, don't tell us how it does not replicate or how it does not reproduce or whatever. Replicate, in this case, my apologies. And just make sure you're very descriptive and that you include details in your project. Going back to roles and tasks, it's my last time flipping back, hopefully. So just going back to project manager, make sure the last but not least, this basically like summarizes your project. Make sure you have a fact sheet, visual of some kind. It could be digital poster or other presentation media. So if you do want to make a poster, that is acceptable. I would just say take a picture of it, submit it to your teacher. I'll even accept that for my students. I don't mind. Even if you finish everything beforehand, just make sure that it's submitted to your teacher. Don't worry about the modifications again. Must include virologist and immunologist information. Must be professional quality, aesthetically pleasing, and realistic. So just refer back to the rubric on how to complete the neatness and ensuring that you meet the criteria. Number 4, presentation must be 5 minutes in length. So just make sure that you meet the criteria given in the, make sure that you meet the criteria given in the rubric, and that should be success. We should be successful there. So exit ticket, you do need to have you will need to submit an exit ticket as well to complete the project. This will also go in logs with the rubric. Cross-curricular evaluation. These questions were given by the health department. Ms. Reed and her team came up with these, so be sure that you answer these questions as well, okay? Let's see here. What else can I go over? Gonna show my Google Classroom really quickly. So basically what I have done is I actually have mine via Google Classroom. I do have students to email me theirs as well, which is fine. So basically this is the first week. I'm not sure why it's out of order, or it shouldn't be. Is anything here for PBL week 1? Nothing's here. Don't know why that is. Not sure. Okay, so I don't have it as PBL week 1. I actually have it as PBL video in questions. So this is PBL video in questions. I'm not sure why it's under week 2. It shouldn't be though. Okay, there we go. All right, so PBL video in questions. So here it is. This was just a video, And the questions, as mentioned in the entry document, how flu virus is attacked by Natural Geographic, is the same thing. I just put it into a more simpler form, but always feel free to refer back to the documents if you choose to. Okay, not sure how your teacher has yours set up, but hopefully it is something similar, or hopefully this will help you out. Also, let's see here, PBL week 2. So if you see, okay, so clearly they can move. PBL week 2. So if you see here, here's the information for virologists. Here's the role. Here's the link again, which tells you how to submit. Here are the tasks that are included as well, and here are the supporting documents. Okay, so I've already attached the documents, but of course, you know, I made the adjustments, so I will go back and resubmit those. Okay, and let's see. So week 3, PBL week 3, which is this week, which was yesterday, which is immunologist. So actually finding a cure for your virus, which was due yesterday. And here's the information. It's basically just a breakdown, okay? And of course, I say you can email me here. Here's my email for anyone who needs it or whoever wants to ever reach out. I don't mind if you're from another teacher's class or if you need help, some assistance with anything. I'm here to help anyone. And I believe that kind of wraps up everything that I have here. Let me see. Excuse me. Not meaning to show the personal information. Let me just make sure that I don't have anything else to share with you guys. Nope, I do not. So be sure that if you need to, you can refer back to STEM Scopes. This is the entry document. Again, this is not a group project. It is an independent project to be completed each week. The last day to complete and to turn in your assignment will be May 20th. And I guess it would be helpful for me to review this one really quickly. So remember, the last day, the due date, is May 20th. Turn in your project. If you have any questions, please reach out to one of us. Please feel free to take advantage also of the academic helpline, which is available to students. If you need that information, feel free to reach out to one of your teachers. Not sure what other questions, what else I can answer while I'm on here. Feel free to reach out anytime. And I am actually going to